Thank you, Brad. And good evening, everyone. My name is Mike. I'm Director of Educational Services with the district. This is my first year with the district, but I've been a lifelong community member, a former graduate in the mid-90s, and really owe a debt of gratitude to this district. I really feel that I am where I am today because of the education I received in this district for 13 years, and I'm very happy to be living in the community and working in a community. I have 2 children in this building. They will be the 4th generation of my family to graduate from either Brownhelm or Firelands Local School District. So I'm deeply invested in this community, and again, I'm very happy to be here. As I share my portion of the program tonight, you're going to hear the words change, new, and different very often. In fact, education in Ohio is going through a major overhaul, both in terms of what students need to learn, how we ask teachers to teach, how we're going to assess our students, how we as educators will be evaluated, and how our district will be evaluated. But as I reflected on all these changes, there are things that we have done in this district that are still very relevant and very valid. And one of those things is in front of you, and that's our mission statement. This mission statement is never more relevant than it is today, and our goal has always been in this district about preparing students for the next step in their life, whether it's our kindergarten teacher preparing students for the 1st grade, or whether it's our high school teachers preparing students to apply to a 4-year school or to a 2-year school. We've always been about preparing students for that next step. And now more than ever so, with the advent of the Common Core and a very demanding and competitive economy, this is what our focus is every day in this district, and very, very relevant and very true. As some of you may be aware, our state, along with now 46 other states, have adopted something called the Common Core standards in both language arts and also in math. Again, another major change in education. If we would have looked at this map 3 or 4 years ago, and as is the case today, you would likely see 50 states doing 50 different things. And so again, there are positive changes that really as a country, with the exception of a few outliers who seem to think they can do a better job than the rest of the country, namely we see Texas, Nebraska, Virginia, and Alaska have not joined in this consortium, but the rest of us have. We now have common standards in language arts and math from kindergarten through 12th grade. In addition, in the state of Ohio, we also have updated and revised our content standards both in the areas of science and social studies. In addition to that, we've also updated our content standards in areas such as the arts, physical education, foreign language. So again, those words, new, change, different. We are really working with an entirely new game plan. One of the hallmarks, one of the main purposes of the Common Core was really to make sure that students were best prepared for college and career. And so when I thought about presenting this topic tonight, I thought about all the news that we too often hear about shrinking economy, jobs disappearing, factories closing, companies outsourcing. So hopefully as you walked in, you were able to pick up a handout called the Buckeye Top 50. And if you would take that out, I'm going to spend just a minute talking about that. This was a document that was put together by the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. And what this document does is identifies 50 occupations that are high demand, high wage, growing fields in Ohio. And as you look across that document, there are several things that stand out. And the first one being is that the vast majority of those careers require, at the very minimum, an associate's degree. Most of them require a bachelor's degree, and many require degrees above that. So further education is the name of the game in terms of our economy. Those growing fields absolutely demand further education. The other aspect that ties directly back into the Common Core are expectations and knowledge related to those fields. And as you look down those knowledges and the knowledge and skills in that last column, a couple things struck me. One is strong communication skills, both communication in terms of verbal communication, written communication, and also critical thinking skills. Again, hallmarks of the Common Core. Another aspect of the Common Core is the focus that the Common Core has lent to our instruction. All too often, we've been guilty, quite honestly, of teaching a mile wide and an inch deep. And the Common Core has really worked to reverse that trend, where our focus now is on fewer standards, but make no mistake about it, those standards are very deep and very rigorous. So as we listen to that first video about divergent thinking and thinking about critical thinking skills, what we expect students to do is really take information and apply it to a novel and new setting. So critical thinking skills, deep, rigorous application are the name of the game when you think about Common Core. The advantage of the Common Core, as I mentioned before, is think about that map. We're now part of a consortium, at least in language arts and math, of 46 states. So by doing that, we were able to pull the best standards, the best practices from across the country, and now all our students will be able to experience that. If we look at more specifically, both in terms of language arts and math, some things to know. One of the major shifts in language arts is in the area of informational text. Informational text really is nonfiction types of work. And not that we haven't focused on this in the past, but there really is a strong emphasis on making sure that we not only teach kids to read, especially in the primary grades, but we also expect kids now to be able to read something and gain information from that. So a major shift in the area of informational text. Not that we're ignoring narrative text and other sorts of things, but again, a focus on informational text, a major shift. Increase in text complexity. 46% of students who enroll in college do not graduate within 6 years. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the main reasons is that students don't have the ability to function in college primarily because they can't reach college level text. So in order to address this issue, the Common Core has really said that as students progress through school, we want to make sure that the level of text they're exposed to is rigorous and commensurate with where they are in terms of their education. So we're expecting kids we demand kids to be able to read more difficult text as they proceed through school. In terms of writing, two things to note here. One is that we have focused a lot on narrative writing in the past. We're making a shift towards more analytical types of writing, so writing to inform, to persuade, to argue. As a result of that, students now need to be able to draw evidence from text to support those arguments. Again, another shift, another new thing as we talk about implementation. In math, which is my background, again, fewer standards, but deeper understanding. And in math, we really focus on three things. Making sure students really understand the math that they do, that they're not just going through the motions. We want to make sure that they're fluent in the math that they do. So even down into kindergarten, we now have expectations that students are fluent in their basic facts, addition, subtraction, 0 through 5. We've never had that fluency expectation before. We want to make sure also that we're focusing on the understanding and the fluency that they also apply their math to rigorous real-world sorts of application problems. They're writing about math, they're talking about math, they're using math vocabulary. So when we talk about implementation, there's a few things to note, and really it revolves around time, transition, and resources. Very grateful that in this district we have 2 professional development days, 2 waiver days. We had one in late September and we had one about 3 weeks ago. But the work in front of us really is too much to be able to accomplish in just 2 days throughout the year. So from time to time we do need to pull teachers in, call in subs, and provide our teacher professional development. And I know as a parent in this district with 2 subs, or with 2 children, that when I come home and ask about their day and what'd you have in class today? And say, well, we had a sub today. As a parent, what's going on? Why does my son or daughter have a sub again? And certainly there's various reasons for that. But one is we want to make sure that our people are prepared for what's coming and what your students need to be prepared for. And to do that, on occasion, you need to bring in subs. In terms of our transition, what I can say tonight is that by next year, kindergarten through 2nd grade, we will be fully implemented in the areas of language arts, math, science and social studies, kindergarten through grades 2. Then looking at grades 3 through 12, we will be close to 100% implementation in the areas of science and social studies. And then the areas of language arts and math, our focus next year will be on what's common to what our current standards are compared against the Common Core. And then by 2014-15, we will be fully implemented in order to address the new standards completely and also in preparation for the new assessments. And then in terms of resources, again, going back to issues revolving around training, teacher time, and then also making sure that our students and teachers have the appropriate materials. One of our focuses actually in this building for this year has been, we developed a committee to look at our math resource. For 15 or 16 years we've used a particular resource, have not changed. That resource is no longer sufficient in terms of meeting the expectations of the Common Core, so I will be presenting to the board on Monday night our plan to adopt a new resource in this building, K through 5, in the area of math. So we've talked a lot about new standards, and anytime we talk about new standards, then obviously the next step is a new assessment system. And Ohio has entered a partnership with PARC, which you can see stands for the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. And you think back to that first slide or second slide that I showed, had 46 states on the map. You see in this slide, you see about 23 or 24 states highlighted. There's basically two consortiums right now that have adopted the Common Core. The states that aren't highlighted, that are involved in the Common Core, have aligned with a consortium called Smarter Balance. Ohio has joined the PARC consortium. So PARC will be responsible for writing our language arts and math exams. So if we talk about testing, this becomes kind of the controversial topic, and quite honestly, this is not my favorite part of the presentation, but it's necessary to relay the information. What is not new on this slide is the fact that for a long time in this state, we have assessed students in grades 3 through 8 in the areas of language arts and math. We do that. And typically students take tests during the course of those years that average about 5 hours a year per testing. With the advent of the Common Core, just in the areas of language arts and math, as we learned about 48 hours ago, students will now spend approximately 8.5 to 9.5 hours per year testing in language arts and math alone. So we're going from 5 hours per year to roughly 9 hours per year, just with language arts and math. As you notice, the first thing I haven't read in there, next generation assessments online, another major change is that, in fact, all these assessments will be taken online. Our typical practice has been students come into a classroom, they sit down, they take a paper pencil test, everyone does it on a Monday, we're done, we move on. Well, now with these new assessments, we don't have a computer for everyone to take a test on, so the testing window itself will not be a window. These tests will have 2 parts. The first part will be taken probably in late February, early March. That'll be a performance-based assessment, and the testing window there will be approximately 20 days. That test will not be able to be completed in one day. More than likely will take 4 to 5 days to complete. Another round of tests then will occur late April, early May. Again, a 20-day testing window. Students will take the test over multiple days, done online. Again, a radical shift from what our current practice has been. What also is new in this slide is that for those of you that have high school students, or if you have younger students, certainly will be in high school at some point in time, is that our current practice has been in 10th grade, students take basically a week of testing. It's called the Ohio Graduation Test. They take it as a sophomore. Most of our students pass the first time around. They're done with testing in high school. What the state has now developed is a series of 10 end-of-course exams. You can see 6 of them up there. We have 3 in language arts 1, 2, and 3, freshman, junior, and senior year. And of course, exams in algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. Students now will spend 10 hours per year testing just in the areas of language arts and math at the high school level. Again, a similar structure, 20-day testing window, a test late February, early March, second test late April, early May. And again, this will take effect beginning in the year 2014, 2015. But forget, we have science and social studies to talk about. Again, Ohio is in charge of writing their own science and social studies curriculum. We know slightly less about the expectations of these tests, but what we do know is they will be modeled after the PARC assessment, so there will likely, again, be 2 separate tests per year. So in science, we're going to be testing in grades 5 and 8. We'll have 2 end-of-course exams, one being physical science, one in biology. Typically, physical science is a freshman level class, biology is taken as a sophomore. And then in social studies, we'll have a test in grade 4, a test in grade 6, and then 2 end-of-course exams in American history and government. Again, these new assessments also will take effect 2014, 2015. So when I talked about grades 2 through 8, 8 to 9 hours, again, that was only math and language arts. That number will increase, certainly in grades 5 and 8. And then in high school, given the fact that we have science and social studies exams, that number of 10 will probably go to closer to 15. And again, that's per year, hours per year of testing. Again, this is not my idea, just for the record. So as I finish my presentation tonight, one of the things that I'm often asked is, as parents, what can we do to make sure that we're doing all we can at home? And to be quite honest with you, there is probably nothing more important. And we've heard it a lot tonight, from starting with Dr. Hill through his presentation, when I've talked about model reading habits. Be a model reader yourself as a parent. Turn the TV off, unplug yourself from the phone, from the computer, and read. Encourage your students to read. Read with your students. Read the same book, the same magazine. But I can't emphasize enough, if we're going to be successful in this endeavor, we have to get our kids to start reading. And beyond that, we have to get our kids to start talking about what it is that they read. And we talked about that when the new tests come around, we're going to expect kids to be able to draw information from the text. So I would ask that you talk to your kids and probe them. What are you reading? How'd you feel about what the author had to say? It has to be a conversation. And the earlier we can start that process, the better off we will be in the end. But I will also say that we know that not every student enjoys reading, and that's just the reality of it. We got to fix that. And the best way to fix that is to make sure that when we're dealing with those sorts of situations, we give students choice in what it is that they read. And that's critically important. So if you're dealing with a home situation and it's a battle to get your son or daughter to open up a book or magazine, give them the option. It needs to become a habit. I don't go home and watch an hour of TV that I don't want to watch. I watch an hour of TV that I want to watch. I would relate that to reading. Don't force them to read something they don't want to read if they're a reluctant reader right now. Get them into something, get them started in something they enjoy. And again, being that math person, I couldn't leave math out of the mix, especially if you have younger students, kindergarten through, I would say, grades 5 to 6 right now. If they don't know their basic facts, they absolutely have to know them. Absolutely. So already our kindergarten, first grade, second grade, really all of our teachers are focusing in on that. Students are bringing home flashcards. We have online math programs, a variety of resources, but basic facts are absolutely essential. And we talked before about the focus being less on memorization, but basic facts is a key building block to being successful in algebra. And to be quite honest with you, when your student is in 8th grade math, it's going to look a lot like algebra. We can't call it algebra, but that's what it will look like to you. And you might be scratching your head thinking, my gosh, we're in 8th grade math and I'm struggling. And that'll be the reality of it. Algebra 1 will look a lot like Algebra 2. So we have to get the basics down soon. And again, this idea about thinking about getting your students to talk math vocabulary, express what they know, explain the math. Again, we just can't go through the motions and arrive at an answer. They have to be able to explain how they got there. So again, critical thinking skills across the board, whether we're in language arts, whether in math, science, or social studies. We are reading and writing all the time. With that, that concludes my portion, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Von Gutten. As you heard during the presentation tonight, there are many, many, many exciting things happening in the Firelands schools as we move forward. I feel compelled to expound on one of the things that Mr. McCracken spoke about. One of my passions and areas of expertise is technology. Pending board approval of our technology infrastructure plan, we will be on the cutting edge of technology in this district, providing our students with a wireless environment that exceeds 95% of the schools in the state. This technology infrastructure upgrade will also allow us to be on the forefront of sharing local governmental services and providing voice and phone, voice and internet connectivity for our local government entities at a fee back to us. This is something unheard of in the state of Ohio. This is what, when Governor Kasich talks about efficiency and talks about shared services, we are going to be the model of efficiency and shared services. We are going to be the model of student success and student achievement. We are very proud of our students, our teachers, our parents, and our community. With that, I thank you for being here this evening, and I will open the floor up to any questions that you might have. If I cannot answer them, I will give you a fake answer. I'm kidding. I will ask one of my esteemed colleagues, and if they cannot answer it, we will find you the correct answer. So with that, what questions do we have? Sure.
One, how many do we have with the new retirement of teachers and how our pensions, I'm a teacher too, so how pensions are going, how many teachers do you think will retire that we maybe have added money because they're on higher pay scale? So then where a newer teacher will be hired in to recoup some of that money that we don't have.
This school year, we currently have 2 teachers, I believe it's 2, correct? Officially retiring? 3. Okay, I apologize. 6, more than likely 6 full retirements, and then there are 4 teachers that are retiring, and we're going to bring them back in their current positions. Yep.
So is that the numbers that are shown in those calculations?
Those are shown in the calculations, yes. Correct.
My other question was, what's the math program you're going to recommend to the board for elementary?
Question was what math program?
Math program we had a committee of grade representation teachers, K through 5, gifted intervention specialists, and unanimous agreement on my math from McGraw-Hill is the recommendation at this point in time.
Good program. Other questions? Oh, come on, don't let me get off that easily. Sorry, we only had a couple last night too.
When you say kids would be bringing their own technology, so to speak, to connect in, are there going to be recommendations what they need, or is it going to be just wherever we go?
Excellent question. One of the things that we will be developing, and this will be based on some model standards put out by the Ohio School Boards Association, is a bring your own device policy. And part of that will be in conjunction with our technology experts, more than likely a recommendation for a product. However, the way that the system will be set up, it will support any wireless device. Now, to take that a step further, PARC, the assessment program that Mr. Von Gutten spoke of, has specific recommendations for testing. So one of our hopes is, as Mr. Von Gutten alluded to, we don't have enough computers to test 300 kids at one time. So our hope would be to eventually, if a student has their own device and it meets the standards of PARC for that testing, we could utilize that. So yes, there will be guidelines that will be very public, very transparent, and we will push that out to parents so parents know. Other questions?
What if they don't have their own device?
That's why we have devices here. Yeah, this is with the way technology is advancing in society today, those that have devices, we will encourage them to use. And as a school district, we will continue, as our budget permits, to purchase devices to make these students more familiar with tablets or iPod touches or whatever the case might be. It's endless as to what we can do. So I'll fake it.
Back about 9 years ago, the government passed the No Child Left Behind program.
Correct.
Which was quite controversial. What has been the effect of that on what you see currently in Firelands schools? How you're evaluated now?
No Child Left Behind essentially is gone. The federal government came out with, under the Obama administration, a waiver that waived the requirements of No Child Left Behind. The new Common Core standards and the new teacher evaluation system, the new principal evaluation system, has supplanted those items. And based on my knowledge and based on my 16 years as an educator, they will far exceed the effects that No Child Left Behind had. This is my philosophical statement on this, but No Child Left Behind essentially gave us a bar. We reached that bar. It wasn't a high bar. The Common Core standards and PARC assessments are a much higher bar, much more rigorous. So I would equate it to when I spoke at the beginning about rote memorization. That's kind of what No Child Left Behind was. It was a memorize and we met that challenge. Now, fast forward to the more realistic challenge of teaching our students how to be critical thinkers. That's the Common Core. So we now are going to have to rise up to that next bar. No Child Left Behind was a good day. It didn't move us to where we need to be. Common Core will. Does that kind of answer it?
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions? Sure.
The rating, does Firelands have what they think the state would rate them since X number of distinction and those things are all going to go, like where do you think we're going to fall with their ABC?
To be honest, we are probably going to fall where every other school district falls, with a C. I'll be very upfront with you about that's one of the things that we are going to need the support of our community, of our parents. Because my fear is, Governor Kasich is largely behind this change to an A through F report card. My fear is, and again, this is just me speaking, when the new report card comes out and every school in the state is a C, D, or F, including beloved community schools, he will go to the legislator and he will say, I told you so, these schools are failing. Not the case. You've given us a new task. We got a C. I fully expect that. I fully expect that out of most schools in the state. But you've given us the task. You know what? The following year, we're going to have a B. And the next year, we're going to have a B+. And the following year, we're going to have an A. And then we're going to have an A+. That's what this is about. That's what, what Mr. Von Gutten spoke about in terms of the Common Core and the professional development that we're providing our teachers. We will meet that task. We will rise to that task. It's not going to be instantaneous. It wasn't instantaneous when the No Child Left Behind came out. When the OGT came out, people weren't there. We will get there. Just my belief at this point. Other questions? All right, with that, I thank you very much. This video will hopefully, this is something new for us, we're attempting to videotape this presentation, place it on the web with a dual screen format so it shows the PowerPoint as well as each speaker. Hopefully have that up in the next couple weeks for you to review. I invite you to contact me, to stop by, to meet with me at any time to answer questions. Mr. McCracken and I both love finances and love to talk about them. It bores a lot of people, but not us, so I encourage you to contact us if anything ever arises. I thank you very much for your support. Drive safely.